Can we create a truly unique neighborhood with formal gardens in our French city? Today, we will work on transforming our third administrative district, or Arrondissement, by creating a garden and recreation area around our French City Hall. We are building a Parisian-themed city using L'Étoile as our centerpiece. This is the 12th Avenue Roundabout in Paris that is home to the Arc de Triomphe. In our first 3 episodes, we built the massive roundabout, made progress on 4 distinct districts, and added the Notre Dame Cathedral. Today, we will see what happens when we grow to 65,000. While we expand, our goal is to create unique neighborhoods so that the city does not feel too repetitive. I hope you are enjoying this experiment as much as I am, and join me as we transform the city. If you're new to my channel, my name is College Builder. I work as a college dean by day. This is episode 4 of Ile du Carrefour. We still have much to finish in our third arrondissement, including the section along our tourist destination modeled after the Champs-Élysées. Since this is a wide boulevard with many tourists, we will keep the buildings set back from the sidewalk to provide extra wide walking space. In creating a bustling tourist and commercial area, our goal is to place the noise-generating buildings on larger roads and to situate buildings that might prefer quiet on the smaller ones. To complete the Champs-Élysées look and feel, we will remove the default surfaces and add a custom surface that will unify the block. In a future City Skylines 2 update or DLC, it would be incredible to have the ability to create extra wide sidewalks, featuring larger trees, cafes, and flowers all integrated, as seen in many urban settings. Let's fill in these 2 blocks, which seem part of a small neighborhood with its own community school. Large urban areas often feel divided into smaller neighborhoods, each with its own charm and character. Sometimes these small neighborhoods focus on a small plaza or commercial area. Other times they might revolve around a park, school, or another distinctive feature. In this community, 5 roads converge with a police station and school at the center. In the central block, we will place a series of red-roofed buildings that add charm and stand out from the surroundings. We can imagine a historic reason why our Paris-inspired city features these colors, in contrast to the gray roofs typically found throughout the real Paris. What reason would you give? By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please give it a like and leave a comment. This helps me know to create more content like this and assists others in finding my videos. I love how this little neighborhood is coming together. It's surrounded by 3 large boulevards, which provide easy access for navigating the city. There is ample internal access to services, parks, and landmarks, which can enhance their happiness. Additionally, they are close to well-paying office jobs. In short, this should be a very self-sufficient part of the city. Let's now move across the boulevard and begin our garden district. When I envisioned this, my original idea was to create our own version of the Luxembourg Gardens in Paris, but I really didn't know how it would look. Let's plop some of the large parks and then adjust the roads to outline the gardens. Formal French gardens emphasize symmetry and geometrical planting beds, highlighting human design and control over nature. Paths are often straight, and it is common to see rows of trees and bushes. We can create this effect using many of the base game parks, although I also think it's fun to add a soccer field for recreation. With Anarchy on, let's extend the park paths to create multiple routes for citizens to stroll through. Our gardens of Ile du Carrefour should feel like a major destination for our citizens. Next, we unify the gardens with a formal grass surface. we will delete the default surface textures and replace them with lawn stripes. Lawn striping is typically accomplished by mowing the grass in alternating directions, causing the bent blades to reflect sunlight in different ways and create the illusion of alternating rows of color. This look is very formal and ideal for our gardens. We'll now surround the gardens with medium-density residential buildings from the French asset pack. By completely filling the adjacent blocks, we create the impression of a secret walled space in the heart of this neighborhood. The gardens are not situated directly against one of the major boulevards. Instead, you must enter the neighborhood to discover it. At one end, we will use pedestrian roads and create a small opening, filling the grass with rows of circles. It seems we will soon need another elementary school. Let's continue plopping residential structures around the park, creating our wall of buildings. I imagine there is considerable demand to live in the space and enjoy a view of the garden, which will drive up property prices. Like the small neighborhood we just created, these homes are surrounded by arterials and collectors, making it easy to navigate other parts of the city. If you live in this neighborhood, you might have a short walk to work. This neighborhood reminds us that Paris aims to become a 15-minute city. This goal is an urban planning concept for residents to access their daily necessities, leisure, shopping, work, school, and healthcare in 15 minutes or less via walking, biking, or public transportation. A 15-minute city should reduce the dependence on cars, improve air quality, and promote sustainability. During my most recent visit to Paris, I was impressed how many more people were riding bikes compared to just 2 years ago. While we don't have bikes yet in City Skylines 2, I love the idea that our Paris-inspired city could aim to become less car-dependent and promote a return to a local way of life. What do you think of the concept of a 15-minute city? I admit that it inspires me, particularly as I walk from my home to my office in just about 10 minutes. Perhaps at some point we could have data in the game that tells us the average commute time for our citizens, or even how much time they spend getting to shopping and leisure activities. The area surrounding our beautiful formal gardens is progressing wonderfully, and I enjoy seeing all the pedestrians strolling about. However, if we examine our data, we can see that our mail service is lacking. In fact, the information overview shows that we have woefully ignored mail delivery and pickup. We can correct this problem by placing more mailboxes, not only in the 3rd Arrondissement where we are currently building, but also in districts across the city. I added some more post offices and increased truck capacity off-screen in the industrial area. We are about to fill in the garden section, including the tricky section near the small roundabout. The curved roads certainly make things more challenging to fill in since we do not have any curved buildings. By keeping snapping off and overlapping multiple structures, we can arrange buildings to appear naturally around the curve. We will then remove unnecessary default surfaces along our Champs-Élysées and replace them with a single unifying surface from the French-inspired pack by El Guendo 87. Next, let's add some more details to our formal French gardens. Although we don't have a single road or path that runs through the middle, we have created the impression of 2 different sides that mirror each other in various ways. You can also find geometric designs and topiaries, so I decided to include the sculptured circular section in the middle. Ultimately, I love how this turned out, but let me know what you think. Did we miss a feature? Next, I want to step back in time before we finish the gardens and examine our traffic management. We placed one bus hub on the border of the 1st and 2nd Arrondissement, and another on the border between the 3rd and 4th Arrondissement. Our 3rd Arrondissement is so large, and the gardens will become such a popular destination that I think the middle of the 3rd deserves its own hub. We can also see that a few intersections have turned into bottlenecks, especially as we develop the garden section. Our smaller roundabout would benefit from additional dedicated lanes, both on the central boulevard and around the perimeter where cars and buses are attempting to turn. You will notice that I typically place near-side bus stops, which are stops immediately before an intersection. Near-side stops are more common than far-side stops, which occur immediately after an intersection. Advocates of near-side stops argue for pedestrian safety and bus efficiency, while far-side supporters also raise their own safety concerns. One thing I almost never do is place mid-block stops, unless there is a special destination in the middle of the block. Placing stops in the middle of a block directly across from one another does not mimic most real-life bus patterns. Paris features both near-side and far-side stops, with a greater emphasis on near-side, so we will maintain this preference. When our small alleys intersect with a boulevard, let's use the traffic mod to disable left-hand turns and straight-through options. Eliminating these abilities will keep things moving. As many of you have noted, our massive central roundabout should give priority to cars entering the roundabout, if it is indeed modeled after Place Charles de Gaulle in Paris. We can create these traffic rules by using the Lane Priority tool in the Traffic mod. The tool enables us to determine which lanes have priority and which must yield, whether in groups or individually. The green outline indicates that the lane has priority, while the orange outline indicates that the lane must yield to other traffic. Updating all 12 boulevards that intersect our massive roundabout is a significant step forward. I don't believe the traffic AI will ever perfectly mirror the real-life version, but we can make huge progress in the right direction. This entire series is truly an experiment to determine if we can create this complex roundabout. Do you like the additional traffic rules we've added? Let me know what you think in the comments or add your own suggestions. In the last episode, we placed the famous Notre Dame Cathedral in the 3rd Arrondissement and began building the sections around it. Now it's time to complete these sections, including the empty blocks along our version of the Champs-Élysées. As a reminder, this is our own Paris-inspired city, so we are taking significant liberties and using our imagination. For example, the real-life Notre Dame is located on an island in the middle of the Seine River. Our version is in the middle of the city, much closer to our massive roundabout. Since we lack many historic landmarks, we need to utilize what we have for leisure and to attract visitors from out of town. Let's continue adding our own custom surfaces, drawing from the French-inspired collection. Incorporating these surfaces and keeping the building set back as far as possible enables us to create a truly grand boulevard, ready for our many tourists. I love this little angular block that borders our version of the Champs-Élysées. This is a unique touch and adds visual interest. In practical terms, it also provides a direct connection from the boulevard to the park area surrounding the cathedral. With so many narrow alleys, we have plenty of room to add medium-density residential apartments. These residential zones will help push us over the 60,000 mark. Since the cathedral is historic, we can imagine that many surrounding areas will feature historic cobblestone sidewalks and plazas. For this cobblestone surface, I am using the Real Vision pack available on Sully's Discord server. Much like our gardens, I want to construct a wall of buildings around the cathedral so that it appears to emerge from a central hidden location. While our gardens were likely constructed during the mid-1800s during a period of urban renewal and centralized planning, the area around our cathedral is much older. The medieval sections of Ile de Carrefour can still be seen in narrow winding streets that are often densely packed, contributing to unsanitary conditions that resulted in the plague. The cathedral rises above these labyrinthine streets, which feel haphazard and poorly planned. In contrast, our wide boulevards are relatively new and reflect the city's transformation during a period of renewal. Because the city around the cathedral is much older, we will use more cobblestone surfaces. In fact, we are going to make cobblestone a significant feature of the small neighborhood, including in this charming triangular plaza. I started with a modern surface, thinking that perhaps it had been updated like the sidewalks of the Champs-Élysées. We can then add invisible pedestrian paths, crisscrossing the plaza, providing locals with ways to stroll around. In this little empty block between the plaza and the cathedral, let's do something completely different, creating a set of buildings all with orange roofs. This area truly stands out and appears to have a story. It may have been an experiment from the Haussmann reconstruction period in the 1800s that never successfully took off. At this point, we will replace the default surfaces with our cobblestone. As I mentioned, the older street surfaces are a notable feature in this area, indicating that the medieval history of the city has a strong presence in the neighborhood. Looking across all these blocks, it is evident that this plaza, located so close to the cathedral, would not be modernized. It also needs to have cobblestone, staying true to its historic roots. The many cobblestone areas in the cathedral district contrast beautifully with the modern promenade on the Champs-Élysées just a block away. What I truly love is that both the gardens and the cathedral occupy a significant portion of the third arrondissement, yet they convey different stories about the time periods in which they were constructed. The cathedral is much older, featuring its haphazard streets, difficult angular blocks, and bumpy sidewalks. The gardens represent order, control, and centralized planning. Yet, they both exist within the same administrative district. We'll add a few grates and trees to round out the plaza. This looks like a lovely place to sit, have an espresso, or a glass of French wine. The cathedral district may be finished, but we are not yet done for today. We will move away from the cathedral, across the boulevard that divides the arrondissement, and concentrate on these 5 remaining blocks. Let's fill in with some large office and mixed-use buildings up against the avenue. We'll add more medium-density and low-rent residential to the inner alleys. These blocks are close to the cathedral, so let's imagine that they still have some of the old cobblestone. Perhaps during the medieval period, they were connected, and it was only in the mid-1800s that the neighborhood was divided by the avenue. 4 blocks remain. We are so very close. Thankfully, we have a few intersections that provide 90-degree angles or something close to that. However, we also have some tricky intersections where our buildings don't quite fit. For these, we will combine some buildings with anarchy and then position them correctly, creating the impression that they were built for that spot. When we have very sharp acute angles, we can still place a 90-degree corner building. Let's now finish the last stretch of our Champs-Élysées. This final stretch will truly complete our expansive boulevard, ready for the throngs of tourists who will stroll along and shop in the stores. I like dividing wide blocks with small alleys and cul-de-sacs, creating a tiny part of the city that is probably only known to locals. Facing the main avenue, we have signature building cafes and mixed-use shopping. This is the commercial, public-facing side. Behind it, we have our little quiet street, surrounded by residential-only buildings. Dead-end residential streets, even in a big city, help reduce traffic noise for residents, as they do not have to deal with truck traffic passing through. We will continue removing default surfaces, ensuring we do not accidentally remove the surfaces in the inner courtyards of buildings. For the Champs-Élysées, we will stick with something more contemporary, in keeping with the purpose of the street. For our side roads and alleys, we will use the historic cobblestones. I love seeing all the pedestrians walking as they move into their new homes. Since we have numerous bus routes connecting to the outside, arriving residents can easily travel via public transportation, reducing congestion on our streets. With over 62,000 residents, our streets are handling things quite well, and congestion appears manageable. We are down to 2 more blocks in this arrondissement. Elementary school and college capacity is now a significant issue. Let's start by adding another French community college. It reminds me of Parisian Art Deco buildings from the early 1900s, and I think it blends beautifully with the Haussmann-style structures from the 1800s. The contrast in styles serves as another reminder of the layers of history in our city. To finish off this block, we will surround it with our medieval cobblestone surface. You will notice that we subdivided our last 2 blocks because they were simply too big. We will fill the wide spaces of these blocks with deep buildings and some 90-degree corners. For the most part, these blocks are straightforward and contain many residential structures. We've already packed the 3rd arrondissement with special landmarks, gardens, and tourist traps. Here, we are simply adding residents. The neighborhood looks fantastic. Let's make sure we cover any of the bare spots with cobblestone or other surfaces to maintain our urban look. We can also fill the middle courtyards and open spaces of a block with manicured grass, creating a private haven for the residents. Another elementary school will fit in here, ensuring that we have all our children covered. This block concludes with a sharp angle. However, we can utilize a 90-degree corner building and leave the excess space open for a small plaza. That seems suitable for a busy intersection where 3 different avenues come together. Our 3rd arrondissement is really flourishing. In future episodes, we will need to move on to the 4th, where we will build out the remaining road network and create some landmarks that set it apart. When I set out to create this series, my goal was to build the area surrounding the central massive roundabout. It feels like we have gone far beyond that. In a couple of episodes, we will reach a population of 100,000. Perhaps that should mark an end of the series. Or not. What do you think? If you have enjoyed this and want to keep going, please let me know. Alternatively, I am happy to move on to another project. Either way, I thank you for all your comments and support, which have meant so much to me and inspired me. Of course, please like, subscribe, and check out the other videos on my channel.